For a quarter of a century, Vladimir Putin has ruled the Russian Federation with a seemingly unshakable grip on power. He cultivated an image of the indispensable leader, defender of sovereignty, restorer of greatness. Through media control, suppression of dissent, and a cult of personality, he projected stability. But today, that carefully maintained facade shows deep, undeniable cracks. The prolonged, costly war in Ukraine, born of his own ambition, has begun to unravel his authority. It stems from a single catastrophic miscalculation in early 2022, ordering a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Moscow expected Kiev to fall in days, a puppet government installed with little resistance. That assumption proved disastrously wrong. Ukraine unified in defiance, soldiers and civilians alike rose to defend their homeland. The march on Kiev stalled. Resistance grew fierce across the country. Weeks became years of grinding warfare. Strategic setbacks, humiliations, and staggering human and economic costs mounted. A wound now festers at the heart of the Russian state. His reputation as a master strategist shattered on the battlefields of eastern and southern Ukraine. Sanctions isolate the economy. A fuel crisis bites. Ukrainian drones strike deep, shattering the illusion of safety. The architect of modern Russia finds himself trapped in a quagmire of his own making, control of the narrative slipping away. Russia's campaign devolved into a testament to failed strategy and overconfidence. The lightning-fast conquest plan met adaptive Ukrainian defenses. Since then, Moscow has launched repeated offensives, each sold as the final push. Fresh conscripts, armor, and relentless artillery poured into Donetsk for a vaunted summer offensive. Propaganda promised breakthrough, reality largely fizzled, mirroring past failures. Marginal gains for massive effort. Strategic hubs like Pokrovsk, Kramatorsk, and Slovyansk remain in Ukrainian hands. Russia pays dearly for negligible ground. Boasts followed by stalemate erode credibility of the military leadership and of Putin. Poor logistics, outdated tactics, low morale, systemic flaws laid bare. Captured officers describe desperation and politically driven orders detached from reality. Ukraine, bolstered by Western support, leverages drones and long-range fires to hit high-value targets at the front and deep inside Russia. This has become a war of attrition Russia struggles to sustain. Taking Donbass could take years, full conquest decades. Each failed offensive chips away at public trust. The battlefield is a graveyard for Russian soldiers and for Putin's infallible image. The war's most immediate tragedy is its human cost. Reports suggest over 1.1 million total casualties. In 2025 alone, roughly 332,000 dead and wounded. An average of 950 new Russian casualties every day. These are lives, not statistics, leaving voids across Russia and fueling quiet resentment. Sanctions cut Russia from markets, freeze assets, and restrict critical technology, weakening the economy. Drone strikes on refineries slash capacity. Fuel prices double in some regions, driving up food and essentials. The war reshapes daily life. Prosperity yields to scarcity. 58% say the war has personally affected their lives. Over 1 in 5. Greatly. Loss, injury, financial decline, even fractured family ties. Anxieties and grief spread. The narrative of a distant, controlled operation has collapsed. The Kremlin can no longer pretend the costs aren't borne by ordinary people. The price of imperial ambition is being paid in Russian blood and treasure. Independent polling shows war weariness. 66% favor negotiations, especially women and the young. Discontent spreads through Moscow's corridors of power. Open defiance is rare, but fatigue, frustration, and disappointment are pervasive. Insider accounts hint at a fraying elite consensus. Oligarchs see fortunes decimated and mobility curtailed. Pariahs by a war without clear end. Decades of integration with the West, undone. Security services gained prominence, but failed to deliver victory. Economic elites are sidelined, their interests sacrificed. Putin long balanced Siloviki, economic liberals, and oligarchs. The war upsets that balance. Wave attacks by poorly trained troops on fortified positions yield catastrophic losses and deepen disillusionment among officers. Whispers of flawed planning and unrealistic political demands persist. Informal networks that stabilize the regime begin to fracture. A rising tide of resentment presents a hidden direct threat to Putin's authority. Despite narrative control, he cannot silence elite doubts. Many now see the war as a disastrous mistake, deepening his isolation. With public support wavering and elite frustration growing, the Kremlin pins hopes on a renewed Donbass offensive. It is sold as a final push to secure a tangible victory. Analysts warn the next 2 months could mark the war's climax. A significant manpower reserve aims to overwhelm defenses, but years of cost and low yield show how hard it is to change the trajectory. Success could force Ukraine from the rest of Donbass, letting Putin claim a major victory. He would frame it as a primary objective achieved, justifying immense sacrifice. A new narrative could rally a weary nation and mute critics, at least temporarily. Failure would be catastrophic, exposing the strategy's futility even with overwhelming manpower. Opposition voices suggest a failed push could force a ceasefire or end to the war this year. His political capital would be exhausted, exposing him to elite challenges. Putin must contemplate an endgame with no appealing choices. Option 1. Suspend the war with a ceasefire. Regroup, stabilize, but risk admitting failure and losing momentum. Option 2. Pursue formal peace, maybe extracting a NATO-EU pledge, but Russia no longer negotiates from strength. A missed earlier opening gives way to stronger Western backing of Kiev, making breakthroughs less likely. The master of geopolitical chess is running out of moves.